What's up, guys? This is Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the broader markets. Just know that I am not a financial planner. So, Tesla sold off quite a bit with all the bad news that's been coming out for the last couple of days. And the whole market tanked upon some more news that came out. With the market tanking, we saw Tesla dump all the way down to $380 a share. And that, in my opinion, was a very, very good buying potential opportunity because of what we were seeing on the technicals. And I mentioned that as long as Tesla gets back above 390, expect a big bounce. And that's exactly what happened, at least today. I also mentioned that as long as SPY could reclaim 668, we're looking for the gap fill and a big bounce, which is what happened. I said as long as the QQQ could reclaim 602 to 603, we're looking for a bounce towards 612, and that's also what happened. So we called the bounce that happened. I said yesterday the market would likely see a nice bounce, but we actually kind of like dumped first before we got the bounce. But overall, we did end up getting it. So the question is, what's going to happen heading into next week? What's going on with some Tesla news? So unfortunately, Tesla's seen a lot of recalls around its Powerwall 2 home backup battery systems due to the risk of overheating. I think that this was a very, very negative piece of news, leading to a lot of like downside for Tesla. Also, their sales data was not the best, and that is what contributed. And then there was all this news coming out about how there's negative data suggesting that the new foreclosure starts in October jumped 20% compared to a year ago, showing some cracks in the housing markets. And then there's also more fear about how the Fed would likely be very, very uncertain and very, very cautious heading to the next FOMC meeting due to the lack of data because of the government shutdown. A lot of data was not collected, and a lot of data involving inflation and employment would likely not be released, which in turn is what caused the market to start pricing in a lower probability of us getting some kind of cut by the Fed. So all of this negative news is why the market was selling off the way it's been, right? Instead of a 90% chance of us getting a cut for December, the probability went down to 60% yesterday. Now it's at 45% as the market dumped more. But then at the end of the day, the market did try to bounce, and we saw buyers return for Friday. So, what's happening for next week? What is my prediction for the markets? Let's talk about some catalysts, and then I'll break down the charts. For tomorrow, sorry, not tomorrow, for next week, starting on Monday, we just have a bunch of Fed speakers like Williams, Jefferson, Kashkari, Waller, and Logan all giving speeches tomorrow. I keep saying tomorrow, sorry guys, for next week, which is going to be on Monday. Then for Tuesday, we have some employment data coming out in the morning, but everything else is going to be more minor. And then we're going to wait and see if some more data comes out. There's a chance that a lot of this manufacturing data might not come out yet because the Bureau of Labor Statistics needs more time to get the data together and collect it. So some data may not still be coming out for next week because of the government shutdown. It's going to take some time to get everything back. But in the upcoming days, eventually, yes, the data will start coming out again and the market will go back to normal. So we just have to give this some time. For Wednesday, it's going to be a crazy day because Wednesday we have the FOMC minutes and Nvidia's earnings. I'll show you guys the economic calendar in just a second alongside our earnings calendar. And then for Thursday, we have the Philly Fed employment data coming out in the morning, more manufacturing numbers, and then we might not get initial jobless claims yet. We're going to see about that. I think we're waiting for the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And then for Friday, we basically have important manufacturing, composite services data all coming out alongside the Michigan consumer sentiment data. So we'll see what this leads to moving forward. So be very, very patient. On top of this, for earnings, we have Xpeng on Monday. On Tuesday, we have the Home Depot announcing their earnings. On Wednesday, we have Targets, TJ Maxx, and a few more. And then the big day on Wednesday is we have the FOMC minutes on Wednesday, right? This is going to be very important, especially as the Fed gives us more information about their view of monetary policy after everything that's been coming out. And then after market close on Wednesday, we also have Nvidia's earnings. So two big things come out for Wednesday. For Thursday, we have Walmart, lots of retail, and that's pretty much it for the rest of the week for Friday. So that's what's happening for earnings. We start off on a low end, not really much comes out. And then by the middle of the week, things get crazy with NVIDIA's earnings. And then we start off with we finish off with a more quiet end. And that's pretty much it for now. So what do I think Tesla stock is going to do? Well, I like the fact that we broke structure with this big green bar. And what you'll see on Tesla is usually when you have like a big green bar, you do like to go a little bit higher. Sometimes we do like to go a bit higher after forming these big green bars. Sometimes we form like a big green bar, we make another one, and then we start dipping. But typically, we do like to continue to go higher after doing that. So there is a chance Tesla does try to go higher temporarily for next week. So if Tesla cannot hold 400, there's going to be a risk of us returning to 390. But as long as you hold above this trend line and 400, we're going to be looking for essentially 420. And then we're going to see if we end up getting a rejection or not. But overall, I anticipate Tesla could be looking for 420 very soon. For SPY, we're going to be looking for an attempt to bounce. As you can tell, we're just range bound right here. We are just going back and forth between supply and demand. But one thing I'm noticing is that we're forming what might be a wedge. So as we hit this yellow trend line right here, we like to bounce off of this. If we lose this, it's going to be more bearish. And then as we hit the upper resistance, this yellow trend line up here, we like to reject. If we break that, it's going to be more bullish. Otherwise, we're in a big consolidation. I wouldn't say consolidation, more like I would just use the words, it's like a giant wedge, because we're not truly consolidating. It's more like we're just trading in a much larger wedge to form a big breakout. And what could happen is we might just see a lot of like tightening in the trend, and then we break higher for December. Or what could happen is, and the reason I draw my arrow like this is because the all-time high I think is going to be tested in December, so that's why I'm targeting that level. Or the second possibility is going to be that if we fail and if we get one more breakdown, we could still dump and get one more test of the lows. It's always a possibility before we form a bottom. Then we start to rally heading into December. That's another strong possibility. On the QQQ, we're also kind of like range bound right here. But here's the thing about SPY and the QQQ. I forgot to mention this. Even though we're forming this pennant, we're still bullish right now. We're bullish looking because I think that we're going to attempt to go to the 676, if not higher, temporarily. So we're just going to take this one step at a time, and then we'll see if we reject. Same thing with the QQQ. I think we go a little bit higher. We could be forming a wedge, but I favor 614 to 616 or above, and we're going to see how it ends up reacting. But overall, I think we're doing a fantastic job. On the IWM, we're looking more bullish. We're going to be favoring essentially 240 as our resistance, and we'll see if we reject or not. But overall, there is some upside potential. ES, we have 6780 as our resistance alongside 6819, and we have support down here around this 6700 area. ES is in the middle. We might retest these EMAs, but we haven't broken resistance or lost support. We're stuck in between, and we're going to see what kind of reaction we get. I think that we go a little bit higher on ES, by the way, towards 6,800, and then we're going to see if we reject. And Q might go a little higher for 25,300 to 25,500, and we're going to see if we break higher, come back down, so give this the time it needs. On Bitcoin, we're technically on a downtrend. We're making lower highs and lower lows, so we're going to see if we continue to fall back down towards 92,500. On Tesla, we're also technically on a downtrend, but I do think that this may attempt to bounce back up towards this 420 area, and then we're going to see if we reject off that or not. Nvda has a double bottom right here, so we have this 192.5 area as our resistance, and we're going to see if we break through this or if we get some kind of rejection. But because we're forming a double bottom, it does look like 192 is coming. I want to see if we break 192. If so, I think we could be going for 196 to 198. So there's potential for a double bottom bounce heading into earnings. I think Nvidia's earnings is going to be very key. It could help Nvidia bounce really hard or cause a big rug pull. We'll see, just to be safe, but it's going to be very impactful for the markets. Aapl has a nice cup and handle structure, but I think that we consolidate for some time before we try to break out. You could also draw out a pennant like this on Aapl. So we're seeing lots of these like pennants forming all over the markets, and there might be some consolidation that continues before we see a big break heading into, I would say, the end of November. For a few more tickers, we have Palantir looking bullish. It's going to be favoring 179 to 183 at our EMA retests for some temporary upside. AMD is favoring 252 is our resistance and 240 is our support. May consolidate before it tries to go higher, but I think Nvidia's earnings will have a big effect on this. Coinbase is on a downtrend. Unless we get back above 296, we're actually favoring 275 before it tries to bounce. Amazon is on a downtrend. We're going to see if we reclaim 240 to bounce or if we lose 231. I think we might just consolidate here and we'll see if we turn lower or not. Meta is favoring 616 for some temporary upside because we love to form a base at 600 on Meta. There's also a bullish divergence. Google has a slight divergence. It's also breaking out in the afters. I think we have some big news coming out, so it's going to likely gap up next weekend. It's going to attempt for 287 to 290. Microsoft is also consolidating, could be looking for a test of 512, and we'll see how it goes. And last but not least, the VIX is forming sort of like an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. We're going to see if it ends up breaking or not, so keep that in mind. But overall, we're in a very, very key place right here. We have a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. And what I do want to say is that I think we dipped for now towards the 18s, but we're going to see if we break out higher or if we get a big rejection. This could also be a trap for retail. It depends. Will the VIX just reject and start dumping from here? Or does it kind of like dip a little bit and then get one more bounce for the inverse head and shoulders? This suggests two possibilities. I think that the VIX will ultimately dump heading into December like this. It's going to likely dump towards these lows, but I don't know if we're just going to start dumping from here, right? We just start dumping from here for the rest of the year and we're done with upside. Or if we get one more spike, it's possible we get one more spike, and that could be when we basically form our top and then we get ready for the big sell off on the VIX as the market's about to rally. So that means that the markets, either the bottom is in and we consolidate and then break out to all time highs for December, or we get one more dip. There could be one more dip. It's a possibility. There's one more sell off into the 650s, but that's nothing more than a buying opportunity because heading into December, we likely squeeze back up to all time highs, right? There's two possibilities. Either way, whether we consolidate and then break out, or if we get one more sell off, whether that happens, we're going to ultimately be very bullish for December. I hope that's as clear as possible. All right. So whether we get a sell off like this, we're going to likely rally back to all time highs by December. Or if we don't get much of a sell off, if we just kind of like consolidate in this range like this, we could still just break out from there. That's what I think the market will likely do. Those are the two main possibilities: either one more sell off before we rally, or we consolidate and then rally. It's one of those possibilities. And then that means that Tesla will likely follow the markets. Tesla could still see another dip. So I think that we do try to push early into the week, but then we're going to see if there's a big rug pull on Tesla one more time before this starts to rally to finish off the year and we get back up towards the highs over here. So these highs will likely be retested in December. Or what could happen to Tesla is that we have formed our bottom, and this is the bottom right here, and that we're going to just continue to consolidate, and then we're going to be looking for a big breakout, and we just start to rally, and this is like a bull flag, and we're about to see like a cup, not a cup and handle, but kind of like a double bottom bounce, and this is like our flag breakout. That's another way of kind of like looking at the chart, but we'll see just to be safe. Either way, I think that early next week we bounce a little bit, then we're going to see what happens to the trend as time goes on, if there's one more sell off or not. But ultimately, I remain very bullish for the end of the year. My view has never changed. And I still have the same view because I do have lots of reasons to believe that based off a lot of factors I've talked about on this channel. I will talk more about them in my upcoming videos. So I might not upload a video tomorrow. I might be very busy and dealing with some family emergencies, unfortunately. But despite that, I will be back on Sunday. And starting Sunday, I do want to just be more consistent and just continue to upload on weekends and not really take days off anymore. That's my plan. I thank you all so much for listening. If I get time, I'll try to upload a video tomorrow. If not, I will for sure be back on Sunday. So I will see you guys for sure on Sunday. And maybe tomorrow we'll see how my schedule goes. Thank you for listening, guys. Enjoy your guys' weekends and peace out.